Good morning, North Florida. This is Dr. Ryan Truchelut of WeatherTiger, and I'm going to bring you the very latest on the landfall of Tropical Storm Elsa, which is just a couple hours from moving ashore in the eastern portions of Florida's Big Bend. I'll be breaking down the rain, wind, surge, and tornado impacts that are going to be ongoing across North Florida over the next 6 to 10 hours, looking at the forecast from every angle, as well as current conditions. So I'm going to let the audience come in for the next couple minutes, and then I'll get going and I'll dig right into what's going on with Elsa. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. There's a lot to talk about this morning with Elsa. Here's a live visible satellite image. You can see as the sun is coming up, Elsa is located over eastern Appalachia Bay and is just about to move inland. Let's start by taking a look at the key messages from the National Hurricane Center's 5 a.m. advisory, the most important information that the forecasting experts at the NHC want to convey. And the risks that they want to talk about this morning are, first, the risk of heavy rainfall and flash flooding over North Florida and extending north into southeast Georgia. They also want to make sure that people are aware of the risk of storm surge that's occurring right now along the Nature Coast and eastern Appalachia Bay. They want to highlight the possibility of some low-end hurricane force wind gusts right in the eastern portions of the Big Bend of Florida. Not really seeing that, but we definitely are seeing tropical storm force wind gusts. Either way, certainly we're looking at some tropical storm force wind gusts along the coast, as well as some gusty winds inland through the day, as well as the risks of tropical storm conditions extending further northeast up the southeast coast. So that's what the Hurricane Center is wanting to focus your attention on this morning. Here's the NHC forecast track as of the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory. You can see the current location of the center of the storm is just offshore here in the northeast Gulf, and Elsa will be following a track that accelerates northeast over the next couple days. Maximum sustained winds are currently 65 miles per hour. Last night, Elsa briefly became a minimal Category 1 hurricane again at 8 o'clock last night, but Elsa did not maintain that intensity overnight. Maximum sustained winds have dropped marginally back down to a strong tropical storm. Elsa is currently moving north at 14, and we're looking for that northeast turn in the very near future. So here is an overlay, a nice little overlay of current winds, as well as radar and the warnings. And basically, here's the center of Elsa. You can kind of see it showing up on radar. That's the 8 a.m. NHC position. These are the warnings. This red area here along the Nature Coast still has under a hurricane warning for the potential for hurricane force wind gusts. And these areas in blue are areas where we're looking at tropical storm warnings currently. Now, in those hurricane warnings areas, we're basically seeing sustained tropical storm force winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour, occasional gusts higher than that, as well as this broader area of heavy rain extending over north central Florida and the Big Bend this morning. If we take a look on visible satellite imagery, and the images are loading here, but basically you can see that there's been a pretty good convective burst once again this morning right over the center of Elsa's center right in here, and actually for the first time in a while, you're actually getting some convection wrapping almost all the way around the center. So we're still talking about a sheared tropical storm with some winds aloft from the southwest, keeping the southern and western portions of the circulation much drier. But Elsa doesn't look that bad on satellite imagery this morning as it's approaching landfall. These are some pretty deep convective towers that are going up just north of the center. Again, the center is right about there. So if we look on radar, basically this morning we've cleared, and we're just looking at intermittent showers and storms across the Tampa Bay region. The heaviest showers and storms are across north central Florida and eastern portions of the Big Bend. In this area, we're looking at rainfall rates of 1/2 inch to 2 inches per hour. Center of Elsa right about here and continuing to drift north as we go through the morning hours today. We switch over to Tallahassee radar for a clearer look at North Florida. Tallahassee is seeing this band of showers and storms kind of training. All the cells within this are moving east to west, and the band itself is not moving very much. So what we're going to see across Tallahassee over the next, probably 4 to 5 hours here are continued off and on intermittent heavy tropical showers with, occasional embedded gusts, maybe to 30 miles an hour, not looking at much in the way of winds across the immediate capital region. Again, the center of circulation is here, and it's probably going to make landfall right near Steinhatchee, probably in the next 2 to 3 hours. We have Air Force Reserve reconnaissance aircraft flying around and getting a good look at the circulation of Elsa this morning. And they've fixed the center a couple times in the last few hours, and we're seeing maybe the beginning of that eastward shift, eastward motion. Again, bring Elsa to shore right in the vicinity of Steinhatchee. And all the winds are strongest kind of in this northern and eastern sections of north and east of the center of circulation. So this is a time series of the winds as the aircraft is flying around, and they've been finding some peak winds, on the order of 50 knots or so as they're flying through these heavier bands. So, that's sustained winds, again, 60, 65 miles an hour in the very worst of the storm. So here's a live look at the wind field, and the tropical storm force wind gusts are all kind of confined to this area, extending over northern portions of the Nature Coast, eastern Big Bend, Cedar Key, as well as Horseshoe Beach, Keaton Beach, and Steinhatchee, all seeing tropical storm force wind gusts currently. So let's take a look at the hurricane threats and impacts products from the National Weather Service to break down exactly what the risks are and the ongoing impacts are going to be. The first and foremost risk that the Hurricane Center was highlighting, the storm surge threat. This area highlighted in orange is the area where there's potential for 3 or more feet of storm surge, especially along and east of the track. So really in here, that's where I think we're going to be seeing the worst of the surge impacts this morning, potentially on the order of 3 to 5 feet. That's what the National Hurricane Center's peak surge graphic is showing. Again, it's this kind of these south-facing beaches where the winds are coming onshore. That's where you'll see the worst of the storm surge at 3 to 5 feet. This is a look at the wind field, and again, it's where you're getting that southerly fetch coming onshore. That's where those 3 to 5 foot surge readings are going to be. Now, currently, what we're seeing, this is a live tide gauge from Tampa. Tampa Bay is seeing about 2.5 feet of surge currently. Tide is still coming in and will be going up through around noon. And this is a tidal gauge from Cedar Key. I'll update this. Cedar Key again seeing around 2 feet of surge above the tidal level, and tide is still coming in through around noon. So again, we'll be watching this probably. I think we're probably a few hours away from peak surge along most of the Nature Coast as the wind direction flips from east to more out of the south in Cedar Key. So this is the hurricane threats and impacts product for wind threat. This area highlighted in red is the area where maybe you might see a wind gust barely to low end hurricane force. We haven't really been seeing that in the observations this morning. More of the 45 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts. This area outlined in orange, that's an area where again you could be seeing those wind gusts of up to 60 miles an hour, even inland. Inland you're probably talking about more widespread gusts in the 40s and 50s along and east of the track. So far, we've seen for wind gusts overnight, wind gusts in the 50-mile-an-hour range along the Nature Coast, and maybe some occasional gust into the low 40s inland over north central Florida. So that's what we've seen so far. This is the National Weather Service forecast for maximum gusts going forward, and it's this corridor kind of from Ocala to western Duval County and west to roughly Madison, where we'll probably see some inland tropical storm force wind gusts in the 40s, maybe the low 50s, as the core of Elsa comes inland later this morning and early in the afternoon. Coastally, this section of coast from, say, south of Perry, south to Cedar Key, again, could be seeing those wind gusts of 60 mile an hour plus at any point over the next few hours. Again, another major threat, this is the hurricane threats and impacts prox from the NWS for flood potential, and there's a large area of moderate flooding potential, and they're also keying in on this area of the eastern Big Bend for some major flooding potential where there's been some very heavy rain ongoing. These are rainfall totals from Elsa over the last 2 days, and you can see that there's been this fairly broad area of 4 to 8 inches of rainfall from southwest Florida through the Tampa Bay region, extending up to the Nature Coast. So far, we've only seen maybe 1 to 3 inches here in north central Florida, but that's a place where there's some very heavy rainfall ongoing right now. These are the active flood watches and warnings for Florida. Areas that are kind of in this forest green are areas where there's a flood watch in effect, and these areas of bright green, those are regions where there's an ongoing flood or flash flood warning in effect. So please check your local information from your local National Weather Service office for the latest information there. But right now it's these pockets of bright green where there's a flood warning in effect that are the most heavily hit areas in terms of precipitation. Flipping back to radar, you can see why that flood warning is in effect. We've got rainfall rates on the order of 1 inch plus per hour that should continue for the next few hours here over the eastern Big Bend. Steady, heavy rainfall coming down for Ocala, Gainesville, and northeast towards Jacksonville. That'll be heading your way later today. 4 to 6 inches of rainfall total, certainly possible, is highlighted here on the official National Hurricane Center forecast for rainfall in these areas in yellow. We'll see a strong gradient as you go further west. Will be much drier past west of Tallahassee. Not much rainfall for the western panhandle. All the big rain impacts coming into southeast Georgia, Nature Coast, north central Florida over the next 6 to 12 hours. Again, that adds up to flash flood risks that are probably the worst in this area highlighted in red, northeast towards Charleston from the Big Bend region. Final threat that I want to discuss are tornadoes. There's currently a tornado watch in effect for southeast Georgia and north central Florida, including Jacksonville and just north of Gainesville. Really, if you're anywhere within the northern half of the peninsula or east of Tallahassee, you should have a way of receiving tornado warnings quickly. It's really this band right in there. Any of those cells could spin up a quick tornado at any point. So that's where you really want to watch for that. I'm going to very quickly check if there's any active tornado warnings in effect that have been issued since I started talking here. There was one tornado warning in effect for Baker and Columbia County, but National Weather Service out of Jacksonville has canceled that. So there are no active tornado warnings, but certainly tornado watch is ongoing, and at any point this band could spin up additional tornadoes at any point. So keep an eye on that through the morning hours. And there's the canceled tornado warning that was in effect earlier today. So with that, I'm going to see if there's any questions. This is a satellite look at Elsa as Elsa approaches landfall. Again, centered right here over eastern Appalachia Bay and heading northeast through the day today, and should be clearing out North Florida by the late evening hours, certainly, as the worst impacts of Elsa move into Georgia and the Carolinas. So I don't see any questions. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Please stay safe, North Florida. Obviously, we faced worse hurricane threats than Tropical Storm Elsa. but it is packing a punch, especially in terms of heavy rainfall across eastern portions of the Big Bend and North Florida, with some embedded gust to tropical storm force expected through the day today. All right, this has been Dr. Ryan Truchelut of WeatherTiger following Tropical Storm Elsa for you, and I'll be back tomorrow with a column across the USA Today network that wraps up what we saw, the observations from Elsa. Stay safe and keep watching the skies.